As we head home to our districts this October, House Republicans will continue to highlight the stark contrast between the successes of President Trump and the America First Republican policies with the catastrophic failed four-year record of Kamala Harris and far-left Democrat leadership. From struggling to put food on the table due to historic high inflation because of Kamala Harris's tie-breaking vote for the Inflation Expansion Act, to illegal immigrants invading our borders and constant chaos around the world, the failed leadership of Kamala Harris and far-left Democrat policies have put our nation and the American people at risk. The contrast has never been clearer. American families were better off under the successful America First policies of President Trump. With strong Republican leadership across the board in Washington, that means a Republican Senate, a Republican House, and President Trump in the White House, we will be able to implement the successful America First agenda to secure our borders, to get our economy back on track, and return to the successful peace through strength national security policies. On the floor this week, we are continuing to fight the failed Democrat agenda, and we are joined today by Congressman Scott Fitzgerald of Wisconsin to discuss his legislation, the Keeping Violent Offenders Off Our Streets Act, which would combat the soft-on-crime policies of Kamala Harris and radical far-left Democrats that have fueled the crime crisis raging across our country. I'm going to turn it over to Scott.
Funds like the Minnesota Freedom Fund, that are designed to help get criminals out of jail. And of course, Kamala Harris was there front and center raising millions of dollars for that fund. And what did it do? It helped get people out of jail who were who were out there in the middle of what they called the summer of love, who were attacking police officers, burning down police stations, other violent crimes where she was leading the charge to get them out of jail, the criminals, not protect the police officers. In fact, she's made public statements over the last few years criticizing the idea of adding more police to communities. And yet when you look at some of the cities that have the worst crime, who initially went down the failed road of defunding the police and then saw the devastation it caused in their communities, they're trying to hire more police officers now. And they're struggling to do it because they at least finally recognize they made a mistake. But once you taint that office by showing a community that the leadership of a city doesn't support the police, police will go elsewhere. Good existing police officers go to other departments. Young people who want a career in law enforcement are not going to go to a place where it's so volatile that they know that the leadership of that community doesn't have their back. So they go to other places. But we will see you out on the road if you're there. But when you go to swing districts where a lot of us will be, you see the same thing playing out in every community, whether it's a swing state like Pennsylvania, where it just was last week, or whether it's a community in California where they've got swing districts. You're hearing people express the same frustration with the Biden-Harris administration. The open border is still the top issue they bring up, and they're furious about it. And yet Kamala continues to do nothing while she's over there in the White House. She could go walk in the White House today and ask the president to reverse his policies that opened up the border, but she won't, because she wants an open border. She's wanted that open border all her life. Again, she's on video talking about how she wants to legalize people who come here illegally. And then when she tries to express, well, maybe I'm now for a secure border, and she's pressed on it, she says, my values haven't changed. Her values are far left liberal. They've been that way her whole life. She wants to ban fracking. She hasn't changed her views on that. She wants to have an open border. Her views haven't changed on that either. You've seen her radical views. She cast a tie-breaking vote, as our conference chair, Elise, just talked about, to create the inflation that I hear about in every community I go to. Higher costs at the grocery store, higher costs at the gas station. Those are a direct result of not just the Biden administration's policies, but Kamala Harris's vote. And I'm not talking about in the Senate, where she might have been with 60 other people. I'm talking about Kamala Harris's vote when it was a 50-50 tie. And it could have gone down with her vote, and we could have had lower inflation with her vote, but instead she used her vote to raise inflation, her tie-breaking vote that jacked up the inflation that's crushing low and middle-income families today. Her tie-breaking vote, Kamala Harris, was the vote that doubled the size of the IRS, And now some of those new agents that they've hired are going after the waiters and waitresses, making them pay higher